Welcome to the What Matters Marketing Show, hosted by Kim Skilton. This is your place to be inspired, to learn, and to build the business of your dreams with actionable marketing tools, tips, and resources. Kim Skilton is an award-winning marketer who has worked with some of the world's biggest brands. With more than 20 years of industry experience, Kim knows firsthand what it takes to build a business from the ground up. If you love to learn and are ready to take action, you're in the right place. Click follow so you don't miss an episode. Now let's get into the show.
Hello, and welcome to the What Matters Marketing Podcast. If you listened to our last episode, I teased you with what we were covering off this week, and it is influencer marketing. It's such a brilliant opportunity for businesses of all sizes and from all industries to really leverage someone else's audience. And to me, it's a real extension of brand partnerships. So today we're diving in deep to what is influencer marketing. So buckle up and let's dive in. Let's start with, why am I covering this? Well, I've had the, fortune of working on both sides of the fence. I've actually managed a fairly significant influencer for over, I think it's almost 4 years now, where she's got almost 740,000 followers, Australian-based influencer. And we've done some amazing campaigns with some amazing brands, anything, including Culture Kings, Maya, Cotton On, literally just wrapping up one with the AFL at the moment this week, talking to some tourism partners as well about getting her to do some stuff with them. So I've done that side of it. So I've managed an influencer, still managing an influencer. But then I've also, on behalf of my clients, I've worked with a number of brands and influencers on specific campaigns. So mainly through my tourism clients. One that comes to mind in particular was one we did with, it's Kakadu Tourism, working with Jetstar and a couple of really influential influencers, as in they had some very nice follower numbers. So today, I want to share with you what I've learned on both sides of the fence so that you as a business owner are armed with the knowledge to then determine whether you feel this could be part of your marketing mix. And if you do want to proceed with it, then you're confident about how you go about creating a positive influencer marketing campaign. Maybe start with one. Get your feet wet, as they say, understand how you can make that work for your business, and then you can look to roll it out on a more regular basis. So let's dive in, and we're going to start with the basics. What is influencer marketing? Well, to me, it's a strategy where brands can collaborate with individuals. Brands or businesses, however you want to define that, can collaborate with individuals who have a dedicated and engaged following on social media platforms. Now, these influencers, through their appeal, their authenticity, through what they stand for, their credibility, have the power to sway or influence the purchasing decisions of their audience. Or it might be that you're not looking for a direct purchase out of it, you're looking to get some brand visibility, but they can help you achieve that. So next, what do we say are the key benefits of working with an influencer? To me, one of the major advantages is the ability to reach a highly targeted audience. By partnering with an influencer whose followers align with your target market, you can then increase your brand awareness and you can drive those qualified leads or possibly sales. Additionally, influencer marketing can help build trust and credibility for your brand, as the consumer or that audience of that influencer often trust the recommendations from people they follow online. So in essence, the influencer's audience will generally consist of followers who have built that know, like, and trust factor. And therefore, if an influencer's recommending a product, an experience, then they are more likely to positively respond to that influencer's recommendations, as opposed to, hearing an ad on a radio or seeing an ad on Google or on Meta, buying cold from these other marketing channels, or they form part of your overall marketing mix to help build that brand affinity that they've got from their followers. So to me, that's a huge benefit. It almost, if you think of relationships, if you just meet someone out cold, it takes time to establish a rapport. If you're introduced to someone through a friend, then you have a bit more faith that you're going to like that person. And that's how I like to think of influencer marketing. Now, one of the tricky things I generally find that people struggle with is finding these suitable influencers. Now, how do you find the right one? Well, look, I've got a couple of ways that I can recommend to you, or at least tell you about, and then I'll recommend to you. So you can do it quite manually, and that would be going to your preferred social media platform and looking around and understanding who's on there, finding ones that might suit or align to your brand nicely. So for example, if you're a high-end luxury resort, then you might try and find influencers that are travel influencers who stay in luxury properties. You might try and find influencers who have worked for other luxury lifestyle brands. And then you can go and look at either through the other luxury brands or through the influencer. You can have a look at how they've done cooperative campaigns or collaborative campaigns with brands before, get some degree of confidence around their style and their delivery, and also have a look at their engagement metrics and go, yep, okay, I'll put them on the short list as a potential to reach out to. The other way you can do it is go to influencer marketing platforms such as Tribe, as an example, and you can actually upload your campaign brief, and then influencers can bid or submit their response to your campaign brief. So that's another way you can do it. There's and just to let you know too, when you're looking at influencers, if they're a micro influencer, which is generally sort of under that 10,000 follower mark, they are unlikely to have a representation, and you are most likely to be able to just contact them directly and ask about what they offer and if they're interested. Whereas if it's a much bigger influencer, so say for example the lady I look after who has over 700,000 followers, she is being managed, so I manage her campaigns on her behalf. And there's a whole host of influencer agencies out there who sole business is managing these different people. And a lot of times, you'll find sporting people will have these managers, or just influencers who might just have a huge following, so they want someone to manage their campaigns for them. Now, when you, whether you end up reaching out to an influencer agency or whether you're dealing directly with the influencer, there are definitely things that you want to be asking them about to make sure that you can qualify whether they are the right influencer for you. So before we finish up on this section on finding suitable influencers and move on to working with influencers, I just want to recap how you can find suitable influencers. Essentially, it's do the groundwork yourself, and that is going through different accounts. You can use either, hashtags if it was in Instagram, or just keyword searches within those different platforms to find potential influencers. And the other way was to look at brands as well. So brands that align to your brand, whether you're a luxury brand, you're an everyday brand, you're a challenger brand. Think about who sits alongside you and is a complementary brand, and just see whether there's some there that you could go to those particular brand accounts and see if they've done any work with particular influencers that you could then reach out to. All right, so then diving into a little bit more about working with influencers, you want to obviously reach out to them. And as I said, you can either do that directly, or if you look at their profiles, they generally let you know if they're managed by a particular agency, and they'll have the agency's contact details. You'll reach out to them, you'll introduce yourself, and you are fully in your right to be able to actually ask them certain things to help you assess whether they are going to be the right influencer for you. So these questions that you would want to ask are things like, how many people do they, well, you're going to know already, to be fair, how many followers they have, but you also want to understand things like their engagement rate. So engagement rate is how much their followers, but also people that find them under, say, the Explorer, if we're talking Instagram, but similarly for TikTok, what their engagement rate is with their content. Anything, 1 to 2% is not great, 4% is great, is good. So just understand what a good engagement rate is, so you know what benchmark to assess them against. You also want to have a look at their reach that they get for their content. So how many eyeballs and impressions essentially are they getting through their content? You want to have a look at their audience in terms of the gender. So is it a male skew, a female skew, and how does that align to your target audience? And also the breakdown in age groups of the audience. If, for example, let's say one of my clients, Kakadu Tourism, what if they announced a new, quite difficult hiking experience within Kakadu National Park, and we wanted to work with an influencer that married to that? We're probably not looking for a senior market because it's a high grade, and having been to Kakadu a few times myself, it can be quite a challenge on certain walks. They also have lots of low grade walks, but if this was particularly promoting a high grade walk, then we would want to make sure that, okay, we're probably talking to a slightly younger audience. We probably want them to be between that 25 to 45 age group. So we want to make sure that when we're assessing our influencer, that we take that into account. The other thing you want to look at is what markets that the audience exists in for that particular influencer. So if I use the lady I manage as an example, quite often we've had people reach out to work with her and they haven't actually asked where her audiences are. So because in her particular case, even though she's an Australian-based influencer, her largest audience is actually in the US, and then Australia, the UK, and France. So you've got to make sure you ask these questions, because you don't want to assume that, oh, look, I know they've got 10,000 followers or 100,000 followers or 1 million followers. That's amazing. But if they're not in a market that's going to be relevant to your business, then you need to factor that in when you're negotiating a rate, or you might just determine that it's not appropriate to work with them. So just to recap, you want to ask them about their audience and their content. So what's their engagement rate like? What's their reach like? What's their audience breakdown by gender, by market, by age group? All right, now we've got that sorted. You feel comfortable about, yes, I want to work with this particular influencer. Then it's about being really clear about what you want to achieve. You want to have clear communication and really define what your objectives are. Are you more concerned about just getting your brand out there? Or no, you actually want, maybe you want to increase your own follower base. Maybe you want to increase your actual sales. Are you going to give them a code to then use to encourage people to make a booking or to make a purchase? So you want to be very clear on why you want to work with the influencer and what would success look like to you, and set those expectations. You also then want to be very clear on what the deliverables are. So when I say deliverables, I'm talking about things like, are they doing a story, a reel? Are they doing images? Is it video content? In what format and for how long? And so that would be one element. How long is the actual campaign duration? You want it to go live on this date, and then any sequential content. What days does that need to drop and be published? How long before you go live do you want to review the content and approve it and make any get them to make any required changes? Also consider the use of the content. So do you want it to display and be published on their page or their account? And if so, for how long? So, say, for example, a lot of the campaigns I've done, it might be minimum 6 months that it needs to stay on the account for. So think about that. Will you, as the person working with the influencer, will you also want it on your own brand page? Will you want to use it on your own other marketing channels? And if so, you need to make sure you incorporate that into your agreement with them. Do you want exclusivity? So say, for example, you're let's say a tour company and you're having them come out. Let's say you have a trip out to the reef and you want to take them out for the day, and there might be cash involved, or it might be an in-kind agreement. And for that, you want X amount of reels or stories. Do you want the content published live on the day, which would mean you wouldn't be able to pre-approve it? So you've got to think about what you want, how long you want it for, and do you then say, well, during that, that week you're in North Queensland, we can't have you do any other cruise out to the reef. Your content must only feature our business. Or you might say, we want you to only feature us for 6 weeks, and they might say no, or they might say, yeah, that's fine, but we'll only do it for 2 weeks. So it's all these things you've got to think about, so that once you get it, you both know what the boundaries are around the use of that content. I think I've covered it there. So I just want to make sure campaign duration, be clear on what the deliverables are, how both you are going to use the content. So you need to stipulate to them, yes, we want it on your account, and yes, we're going to put it on our account as well. You might want to do the collaboration where you review it and improve it as well. Is there exclusivity requirements? How long does it need to be on their socials for? And yes, I think they're the key things I wanted to get across there. And you also then, when all that's sorted out, you want to then give the influencer a very clear brief around the story. So what do you expect them to deliver? And a lot of times, because influencers have their own style, a lot of brands will say, look, our key message might be, let's say if it's the reef example, we need you to make sure that you show the space on the boat, that we include lunch, our equipment that we have on board, what it's like snorkeling, so there might be some key things that you want covered within your content, and you would need to include that in the brief. It might be one we just did with the AFL. They were unable to show any alcohol and food and beverage brands, essentially. And if they went to a venue pre the AFL game and they were unable to show that or name, any of those brands, because it was an AFL dedicated campaign. So you're just going to make sure you think about all of those things and that you put it in the brief to the influencer. And that would also include, which would have formed part of your negotiation anyway, is what the deliverables are, meaning, X reels, or 1 reel and 3 stills, or 1 reel and 2 stories, whatever you are happy, what you believe you need to have a successful influencer marketing campaign. All right, so that's, I guess, some not ideas, but actually requirements that you need to factor in when you're working with influencers. All right, the next big thing I want to cover with you is the cost of influencer marketing. And I'm sorry, but I can't give you absolutes. It really does come down to the size of their audience and the amount of content and the requirements that you're going to put around that content. I guess if you're working with a big influencer, so they've got a few 100,000 followers, then you are going to be paying, in the thousands. If you're working with a micro influencer, then you might just be able to give them an in-kind experience or a product versus paying cold hard cash. So it really does depend. And I certainly wouldn't be afraid if I was you to start with what your ideal is, and then they'll come back to you and say, oh, look, that's your way out of the ballpark there. Or they might surprise you and say, hey, that's great, but we also want this. And then it's obviously up to you as to how much you're prepared to invest in this particular campaign. Another thing to consider when you're negotiating rate too is payment terms. So you might say, for example, you'll have your campaign timing. So they need to give you the content for review and approval X days out to your go live date, or your expected go live date for them to publish the content. And then when does that campaign officially finish? And then they will then raise that invoice, and you are expected to pay within whatever time frame is negotiated. So make sure you're factoring all that into account as well. You are forming an agreement, a contract with this person, and it's for both of you to be very clear on what the deliverables are and the expectations, what that payment fee will be, and when it is expected to be paid. So just remember those as well. Now, in terms of measuring your success, that really needs to be factored into, when you're actually negotiating and being very clear on what you're trying to achieve. Typically speaking, you're going to look at things like, what was the engagement rate? What was the reach and impressions? Did they drive any website traffic? Did you get an increase in followers over that time? And if you did give them, say, a promo code or something, if you've got a product to sell, then that it might be that you can track the code that was used for conversion for sales. So be clear from the get-go what you want to achieve. You'll negotiate that with the influencer, because they should know from past campaigns what they can deliver for you and what they can't, or at least give you some idea. You'll settle on where you're both comfortable, and then you know that you'll need to track these particular metrics to then be able to determine if you see that was successful or not. And if nothing else, if it is your first influencer campaign, it's going to set a benchmark, and you then go, okay, well, that's our first influencer campaign. We know it did XYZ for us. We can now have some sort of indication of expectations for our next influencer campaign. And if it does totally bomb, then have a very honest conversation with them and yourself, and see if there's recommendations that they make around how they think it could have been better. And then you can have a reflection too on what you think you could do better next time to make it be more effective for your business. All right, and then probably just the last thing I want to cover off is, the future of influencer marketing. I don't believe it's going anywhere. It is a really, really strong, gun to have in your overall arsenal. And it really is great for you to get in and experience this and get comfortable with what it could do for your business. Now, I would say we'll probably expect to see a rise in micro influencers. I think it's already happening. So as mentioned, these are individuals with smaller but definitely highly engaged followers. I guess the more they sort of niche down, you can really, really align to them and think, yes, they are perfect for my particular business. And then we've obviously not only got more influencers out there, but we've got the more channels happening as well, with the likes of TikTok and whatever else is around the corner. Now, that whole authenticity piece, that transparency piece will remain paramount as consumers just continue to crave genuine connections with brands and influencers. And I guess that's really another benefit of working with influencers. If it's got that beautiful brand alignment, it's really going to work well for your business. So thanks for tuning in. That brings us to the end of today's episode, which was all about influencer marketing. I hope you found this deep dive insightful and valuable for your business. And remember that influencer marketing can be a really powerful tool in your marketing arsenal when executed thoughtfully and strategically. If you've got any questions or you want to bounce some ideas out off me, by all means, reach out. I'm always interested to know what you're thinking, and also to know that these podcasts are making a difference to your business and giving you some ideas and some confidence to go forth and do different things. So thank you again for tuning in, and until next time, get out there and do brilliant marketing. Thanks for listening in.
Thanks for listening to the What Matters Marketing Show. You can support the podcast by hitting follow or leaving a review. For more great marketing information to help build your business and a life that you love, head to whatmattersmarketing.com.